Aquarius. Lately, have you been feeling like something is shifting, yet you can't quite put a name to it? Everything on the outside still looks almost the same. The familiar roads, the familiar stories, the rhythms you've been living with for a long time. And yet, somewhere within you, something has started to move, not in a way that pushes you to act right away, not as a clear sign that tells you exactly what's coming next, just a very subtle feeling, as if something is slowly opening, and you're no longer standing still the way you used to. You may not fully understand what it is yet, but you can begin to sense it. A shift in the way you see things, in the way you respond, in the way you stay present with your own life. And if you remain there just a little longer with that feeling, you might start to notice there's a quiet signal, becoming clearer, one moment at a time. Aquarius. There are moments in life that don't arrive as events, no clear beginning, no sound to let you know something has just happened. It's like walking through a very familiar afternoon. The light is the same, the road is the same, everything is still right where it has always been. And yet, the way you see it all has quietly changed. You can't explain it right away, and you don't rush to find an answer. It's just a very subtle feeling, like a passing breeze you only notice after it has already touched you. And strangely, you don't react the way you used to. The things that once weighed on you no longer take up all your space. The questions that kept repeating inside your mind are beginning to settle, not because you've solved them, but because you no longer feel the need to force an answer right now. There's a new kind of space opening within you, not the kind that comes from loss, but the kind that feels like an exhale, after holding everything in for far too long. And in that space, you begin to hear what you once overlooked, not a clear voice, not a specific message, just a feeling that life is no longer standing across from you, but slowly, standing on your side, as if a quiet agreement is forming somewhere. You may not be able to name it yet. You may not know where it's leading, but something within you is beginning to shift in the way you trust. No longer the kind of trust that needs proof. No longer the kind that waits for a sign big enough before allowing yourself to move forward, but a quieter kind of trust, more personal, just enough to keep you from turning back. And maybe the most important thing to notice is not what's changing out there, but how you are learning to stay with yourself in a different way. You're no longer trying to control everything the way you once did, no longer forcing yourself to understand it all. You allow yourself not to know. And within that not knowing, there's a strange feeling, as if you are moving closer to something instead of being lost. Aquarius, maybe you don't need to do anything right now. Just recognize that a signal has begun to appear, very subtle, very delicate, but enough for a part of you to no longer remain where it once stood. Your mornings begin the same way. The people around you are still the same conversations, the same familiar sounds. Everything still holds its usual shape. From the outside, there isn't much to say that your life has changed, and yet, something beneath it all is no longer moving the same way. It's like standing in front of a river and knowing, even when the surface looks still, the current underneath is always moving. This time, you're not just watching it, you begin to feel that you're inside that current. Not being rushed, not being pushed forward before you're ready, but a very slow movement, just enough for you to realize you're no longer standing still. Before, you may have been used to holding on to emotions, holding on to what felt familiar, holding on to questions that never quite had answers. That you tried to control where everything was going, tried to understand before taking the next step, tried to hold on to every detail just to feel safe. But now, there's a part of you that's beginning to loosen, not letting go of everything, but releasing the need to control it all so completely. And when that happens, you start to notice something different. Life is no longer something you have to resist. It no longer feels like a constant series of challenges you have to prepare yourself for. Instead, it feels more like a current opening in front of you, and you're learning how to move with it rather than trying to swim against it. You may not be fully used to this feeling yet. There will be moments when you pause and wonder if you're going too far, or not doing enough. But then, almost right after, a quiet calm returns, as if something is gently reminding you, not every step needs to be calculated. Not every action needs a perfect plan behind it. Sometimes, allowing yourself to drift just a little further is already a kind of progress. And what's different now is, you don't feel as tired as before. You're no longer holding tension just to keep everything in place. You're no longer carrying the pressure to prove that you're on the right path. Instead, there's a softness in the way you exist now. You respond more slowly. You listen more deeply. You allow things to unfold without rushing to label or judge them. And within that softness, another kind of door begins to open. Not a door of sudden dramatic change, but a door of permission. Permission to experience. Permission to be uncertain. Or permission to move forward without needing to see the entire path ahead. Aquarius, you may not need to fully understand where this current is leading. Just recognize that you're no longer standing outside of it. And sometimes, the moment you stop resisting life is the very first sign that you're beginning to move with it. And as you begin to feel that as current, something else starts to appear, very quietly, but enough for you to notice that something deeper within you is beginning to shift. We grow up believing that enough has to come with something visible, a milestone, a clear achievement, a moment you can point to and say, this is where everything finally comes together. But then there are seasons like this, when those old definitions no longer seem to fit. No, you begin to realize that sense of enough doesn't always arrive with applause or with recognition from the outside world. Sometimes, it shows up in the most ordinary moments, when you sit still and no longer feel the need to run somewhere else just to fill a gap. When you look back at everything you've been through, and instead of asking, "What am I still missing?" you simply notice, you've been here, long enough, real enough. There's a subtle shift in the way you experience yourself. Before, you may have been used to questioning your worth, comparing yourself, doubting yourself, setting standards that even you weren't sure why you had to meet. You might have believed you needed to become a better version of yourself, just to feel at peace. But now, there's a part of you that's stepping back, not stepping away from growth, but stepping away from constantly placing yourself in a state of not enough. And when that begins to happen, a strange feeling starts to emerge. Not intense, not obvious, just lighter. As if you've set down a backpack you didn't even realize you had been carrying for so long. You don't need to prove anything to feel that you matter. You don't need to move faster than anyone else to believe you're on the right path. And maybe in that very moment, you touch a different kind of enough. Not about gaining more, but about no longer feeling like something is missing. Not about achieving something new, but about no longer taking away from yourself the feeling that you already are. Aquarius. This isn't a destination. It's not a state you have to hold on to forever. It's just a moment, but it's an important one. Because from here, the way you move forward may begin to change. No longer coming from a place of lack, no longer driven by the pressure to become someone else, but from a place that feels quieter, truer, and closer to who you really are. And maybe the most beautiful part is, you don't have to do much to hold on to it. You only need to remember that this feeling has already existed within you, that there was a moment when you simply sat still and didn't feel like you were missing anything. And sometimes, just returning to that memory is enough to begin again, in a completely different way. And from that quiet sense of enough, something else begins to find its way into your life, so subtle that if you're not paying attention, you might pass right by it as if it was never there. The Aquarius. There are beginnings that don't enter your life with bright lights. They don't try to draw attention. They don't feel like this is a big opportunity. They don't make you stop and say, this is what I've been waiting for. Instead, they arrive in very ordinary ways. A passing thought while you're focused on something else. A small suggestion that doesn't seem important at first. A quiet feeling that you want to try something new, even if you don't have a clear reason why. Before, you might have overlooked things like this. You were used to searching for bigger signs, something solid enough to reassure you that you were on the right path. You wanted clarity before you began. You wanted to see the destination before taking the first step. But it seems like this phase doesn't work that way anymore. What's coming to you now doesn't ask you to understand everything right from the start. It doesn't require a perfect plan. It doesn't ask for a long-term commitment. It asks for something much simpler, your presence in that moment. You may notice, every time a small beginning appears, it carries a very particular feeling, not certainty, not complete confidence, but a gentle sense of curiosity, a quiet question rising within you. What if I try? And maybe what matters most is not where that question leads, but whether you allow yourself to stay with it long enough. Do you let it exist without pushing it away? Do you allow yourself to take one small step without needing to know what the second step looks like? Aquarius. Not every beginning needs to be big to be meaningful. A seed doesn't make a sound when it's first planted, and it doesn't announce that something has begun. And yet, beneath that quiet layer of soil, something is happening. Very slowly, very real, and very much in need of time. Maybe what you're experiencing right now is something like that. There's no need to rush to define it, no need to prove its value right away. You only need not to turn away from it. You only need to allow yourself to take one small step, even if it's barely noticeable. And maybe, in those quiet, unseen steps, you're beginning a journey you never expected. Not because it's so big, but because it's so real that you can't quite ignore it anymore. And when those small beginnings start to appear, something very subtle is placed into your hands. Not as a big decision, but as a quiet invitation. Aquarius. You may have once believed that important decisions always come with clarity, that when the time is right, you will know for sure what you're meant to do. But in reality, some doors don't open through certainty. They open through a very small step, a gentle yes, so quiet that sometimes you don't even realize you've made a choice. A yes doesn't always have to be spoken out loud. Sometimes, it's simply the moment you don't pull away. You don't step back the way you used to. You don't close the door before it even has the chance to open. Before, you may have learned to protect yourself by saying no early, saying no to what wasn't clear, saying no to what hadn't been proven, saying no even to opportunities, just because you couldn't see the entire path ahead. And for a time, that made you feel safe. But sometimes, that same safety can keep you in familiar loops for longer than you realize. Now, it feels like you're being invited to try something different, not recklessness, not acting without thought, but a more conscious kind of openness. You still observe, you still listen, you still stay aware, but you don't close yourself off right away. You allow a possibility to stay just a little longer. You allow yourself to step 1 inch closer, just to see what might happen. And sometimes, that's all it takes for a new direction to begin forming. What's interesting is, this kind of yes doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel like a commitment that weighs on you. It's not a decision that demands everything from you. It's lighter than that, like nodding to an idea, like offering a quiet smile to an opportunity, or simply not turning away from something just because you don't fully understand it yet. Aquarius. You may not need to change your entire life just to say yes. You may only need to shift how you respond in very small moments, not rushing to reject, not rushing to close off, not rushing to decide this isn't for me. And within those seemingly small choices, something larger may already be moving, not from pressure, not from forcing yourself forward, but from a quiet kind of trust. Trusting that you can take one more step without needing to know everything. Trusting that you can try without needing to be perfect. And trusting that life doesn't have to be fully controlled to still feel meaningful. A gentle yes like this may not change everything all at once, but it opens a different kind of space where you and life are no longer standing on opposite sides, but slowly beginning to move together. And as you move through those quiet shifts, as you begin to feel the current, as you touch that calm sense of enough, as you gently open to small beginnings and learn to say yes in your own way, something else begins to come into focus. Aquarius. Not everything that enters your life is meant to test you. For a long time, you may have been used to seeing things that way. A situation appears. You wonder how to overcome it. An opportunity shows up. You question if you're good enough. A change comes closer. You ask yourself if you're ready to face it. And over time, life starts to feel like a series of things you have to prove yourself through. But this time, the way things are arriving feels different. There's no rush, no pressure, no demand to become someone else overnight. It feels more like an invitation. Not an invitation to overcome something, but an invitation to step into something. You can sense it in the way everything seems to soften. Less resistance, less tension, less of that feeling that you have to brace yourself just to adapt. Instead, there's a kind of space opening around you. Just enough for you to breathe, just enough for you to observe, just enough for you to be present, without trying so hard. And within that space, you begin to see things from a different angle. An opportunity no longer feels like a test. A change no longer feels like something to overcome. It feels like something moving closer to you, to walk with you, and to open a different rhythm of life. Not better by someone else's standards, but more aligned with who you truly are. You may still have doubts, moments when you wonder if you're on the right path. That's natural. But there's something you might try, not to be certain, but simply to feel. Notice how you're staying with things now. Do you still feel like you have to chase life the way you used to? Or maybe, for the first time in a long while, it feels like life is moving closer to you? Aquarius. You may not need to do more to be worthy of what's arriving. You don't need to be more perfect. You don't need to be ready in some ideal way. You only need to be there, present in your own moment, not avoiding, not forcing, not pulling yourself away from what is quietly unfolding. And when you allow yourself to remain like that, you may begin to notice something very simple and very real. Some things in life don't need to be chased. They don't ask you to run after them. They don't require constant searching. They only ask one thing, that you don't turn away. Because sometimes, a quiet yes from life doesn't come to test how strong you are, but to see how open you're willing to be. And maybe, in the very moment you stop trying to prove something, you'll begin to realize what you've been searching for so long is no longer somewhere ahead. It's here, very close, very real, and slowly. It's finding its way to you, in a way only you can truly feel.